G'day, g'day, wherever you may be in the multiverse. Welcome to my new podcast. Well, it's not just my podcast. I'm here along with my old mate Bennett Ferguson, but this is a new podcast and it's called No Guts, No Glory. And I'm Tony Jack the Bear Man. It's good to have your company. And I'm here with...
Bennett Ferguson. Ferguson. Thank you. Good to be here with you, Tones.
Good to have you around, mate. Actually, I was just saying last week, I really love the fact that you've been rocking the name Bennett. It's you, man.
Yeah?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, it's definitely
It's still fucking new territory, as I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no. When you've been used to being called a certain name, like for years for me, are you Jack? Are you Tony? Are you Tony? Are you Jack?
Yeah.
And it's changed over the years. And lately, I'm finding a shift. People are going back to Tony because more and more people call me Tony now, which I've noticed. So, and I'm cool with that.
How did, even just before we get into the real beef of the podcast, how did having that Jack the Bear, because it's such a fucking big nickname, everyone knew it was Jack the Bear. Did you find there was some sort of like a character you had developed to be this fucking to go with this name?
Maybe in the mind of others there's a character. I don't know. I never really thought of it as a character as much as it was just a. Well, I didn't think that much of it at all. It was other people that told me to stick with it. Yep. And so it's kind of stuck, to be honest. It wasn't because I thought, oh, fuck, this is genius. It was kind of, in a way, it was imposed onto me. Life was saying, no, you're going to have this whether you like it or not. You're going to fucking end up with this one. So, yeah. But, no, it's no character, really. No. Although he is the character that, is named after the lumberjacks have a thing about, if you fuck shit up, you blame Jack the Bear. So he was the fuck up. He was the person that fucked shit up. And in the context of mastering, when you're trying to fix other people's recordings and you've got a nickname named after someone that fucks shit up, well,
right, cool.
You can see the irony with all that.
Nice.
Yeah, you see the irony in all that.
I see it.
So yeah, I think if I've given 3 shekels for every time I've been asked that story.
You'd be a fucking multi-shekelaire right now.
I'd be 100 air.
Yeah.
I'd be a fucking 100 air, Ben. So anyway, Ben and I are doing this podcast because we can, primarily, but also because we wanted to do something, had this idea, apart from my own podcast, and, Ben obviously does a podcast, the Marshall Street Studios podcast, and does other bits of content and whatever online. I was just thinking I wanted to do something with someone that was younger than me, that was a proven performer, that was doing really, really well, and talk about just all the stuff that matters when it comes to setting up a studio, your business, running the studio, even looking at, delving into things around just the business side, which is tax and legals, and not that we're lawyers or accountants, but again, just to sort of delve on the issues around those kind of things that people need to know, and at least, give them something to think about, and then from there they can go and get themselves their specialised advice along that. So I'm not dispensing advice; it's more education, awareness, the things you have to kind of, And again, it's all just coming pretty much from our experience of what we've done. There's no. This podcast is not done and offered as we got all the answers and this is it and there's no other point of view. It's just kind of sharing what's worked for us, why it's worked. So, but you'll get a lot of talk here, at least from me, about the stuff that worked and was successful. But there's going to be a lot of talk about the shit that wasn't. And I think that quite often people are really afraid to admit to, I've made these, and you see it. I've seen a bit of it anyway. Within some circles anyway, where they don't want to admit. The older they are, the more experienced they are, the less inclined they want to admit to doing anything wrong, or having done anything wrong. Unless you pull them out on or whatever. It's just interesting, and I'm not generalising. I'm just saying that. I think when it comes to people who are, I'm not saying that everything has to be a complete utter confessional, but at least honesty enough to say, I fucked up this job and I was wrong and I should have I should have taken the responsibility again, all the things you did wrong, because there was a lot of people that do these kind of things, right?
Yep.
And they would be thinking, oh shit, they would be attributing bad feelings toward themselves around it. So it's important that they also know about the stuff that went wrong, what the mistakes I made, and more importantly, it's okay. It's absolutely okay.
That's where you learn. Like, I don't know anyone in this industry or even starting business-wise who got it right the fucking first time. Like, you usually have to go through that learning process of, oh man, cool, this worked, this didn't, this is how you work well in other people's, and this is how you can actually contribute to a group situation without putting your own thoughts and, ego on top of everything. The only way to go through and to learn it is by doing it, not necessarily doing it right the first time, because no one does anything right the first time, but then taking that feedback, going back, doing some self-learning, going, cool, how could I improve this, some reflection, and the next time you might do it a little bit better. And then you might make a fucking mess of it, and then you come back the next time and it might be a little bit better. But that's just the progression.
Yeah. I think that also is dependent on, you're talking about, taking on advice and that, if you're open to it. Some people just aren't open to what you have to bring.
Yep.
As good as your intention is, you want to help. It's that when it's not asked for.
Yep.
But thankfully, there are a lot of people that do ask for it, and they're looking for input from people about stuff. So that's what we're going to present, mate.
Definitely. And I mean, even on that, like you've been that role and have played and have done that for me for the past few years, before the podcast. That was how we met. You were mentoring me. And it was very much at that time when I first started, like it was, for me, I can just talk from my experience, there was very much a sense of, here's someone established in the music industry who's been there, they've done it, and just to have them in your corner and have them giving you some advice or guiding you through life or through any mistakes, purely just having someone who'd kind of been there and done it before to go, hey man, you're on the right track. That in itself is enough to go, fuck, all right, let's keep going. Let's keep moving, because, sometimes that's all it takes is just a, hey man, keep going. Like just someone who's in the game that you want to be in, or someone you strive to, we want to work with, just to have them flick you an email, give you a buzz and go, hey man, what you're doing is good, keep going. That's huge. It was hugely important for me. And I know it definitely still is for other up and coming artists and people who want to get into the industry.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's, you got to meet people. People sometimes see the role of of a mentor, for example, as there's a respect and everything. But the irony for me is when I mentor, I learn a lot too from the people and you got to meet people halfway with that. It's like with any relationship, man. If people don't combine to work together to do things, or at least are very clear in the communication about, for example, when we started this podcast, I said to you, we'll go 50-50, but don't expect me to do this and that and this. I just said, no, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So when things are clear and communicated, like...
Exactly, yep.
Fucking yeah. But there's still got to be... It can't go all one way. But I'm just saying, I think as long as you communicate what's being done, who's doing what, if anything...
Yep.
And you're constantly in that zone, then you're okay. So in the mentor... And in the mentor-mentee situation, the equal energy, if you will, and it really has to be, I think it's strictly 50-50, which is the mentor will bring the stuff, but the mentee has to do the work. Do you know how many people, man, who fucking ask me, oh, I need help with this, or can we do this, or can we do that? And you give them a few things to start with, and already they're sort of like, oh, really? And... we haven't even fucking started, man. And the thing is, we want this. I can't help people like that.
Yeah.
I won't. Not because, I'm being fucking nasty, but
definitely.
I got X amount of hours of time.
Yep.
And so the people that are willing to come and do the work, and then they get, it's like a feedback loop. Like I get excited, like, fuck, I want to really put in for this person. Then, you get elevated. Bushka.
Correct.
You with me?
Yep.
But there's got to be that exchange.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's like the old, you can only help those who help themselves.
That question. And greatness, people are elevated to greatness.
Yep. And I remember you mentioning even a few years ago about that, there was people coming in who had spoken with you, and, it's just amazing how it seems the first bit of adversity, they throw in the towel. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, he gets a lot of people approaching him, but I'd never had someone come up to me that way. And I guess now, a couple of years on, now that the studio's opening, running things out of here, it's amazing the amount of people you come across like that, who they have a great image and picture in their head of where they want to go to, which is great. But I think you've got to then strip that back to a day-to-day plan and what are you actually going to execute on. And if you're not willing to run into that head first and, you know, one, just do the work, but then listen to the people around you, take their opinions on board, whether that's about your song or about how you're going about your, you know, your release campaign or anything. Without that day-to-day action and execution, like your big goal, your dream is really, it's just that, it's a pipe dream. Like the difference between a dream and a plan is steps to get there. Have a big fucking dream. If you've got sequential steps to get there that you can execute on each day to get yourself close to that, that's no longer a dream. That's just a long-term plan that you're going to work towards. And chances are you're probably going to get vaguely somewhere near it at the end. Yeah.
If you were, true. I find goals really interesting. My mentor, Peter Sage, told me something that one of his mentors told him, but nonetheless, this is where I got the concept from. And that is the idea that goals aren't always about the actual goals themselves. It's about who you're becoming in the process. So even if you don't quite get there, you are going to have changed somehow. You're going to have grown. You're going to have evolved somehow. You're going to have to you probably read some stuff, or you've seen some documentaries, or you've hung out with certain people. There's been changes in your life, you know, and you are no longer the same person at the starting block. So, maybe you haven't got there, but that's okay. That's a great incentive, and if you can get it, fucking more power to you. But one of the things I try and encourage people to understand is to not be goal-orientated and focused, but don't allow your self-worth to be connected to the attainment of that.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yep, definitely. That's a good one. And even that goes hand in hand with another. It was a Facebook video you put up a while ago, which I loved, and I shown heaps of people. It was on when you talk about nothing in life being a linear, straight line.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people get attached to this. This is what I've got to do. I've got to do this, and this is the only way I'm going to get to the end point of where I want to be, which is the A to B connections. Like, you're missing the big picture.
Yeah.
Like, by sticking to that linear plan so hard. Yes, it's good to go, oh man, it's black and white. You either do it or you don't. You know, it's binary. You're either going to get your plan or you don't. You're either going to be success or not. I get it. They're good fundamental mindsets to have. But if you're so tunnel-eyed and stuck on the end point, you're going to miss the natural opportunities that open themselves along the way. That person that you met at the bar who was interested in your music, you know, whose fucking brother happens to be an A&R, but you didn't talk to them because they weren't in your list of who you're going to network with this week because they didn't fit into your plan and how you thought they could be used. Yeah. You're going to let all these natural opportunities just go past.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. And I think there's something to be said about also being flexible to stuff. That's not to say that it's a fine line between being open and flexible to things that say, right, we're going in that direction, not to confuse it with, well, that was too hard. You know, we're doing. Yep. It's a really, really fine line, that one, and you have to be really honest with yourself with all this kind of shit. And it's hard, man, to be honest with yourself, because we all want to bullshit ourselves and just say, yeah, we're doing okay. You know, your ego gets in the way, and it always tries to justify where you're at and what you're doing. You know, so if you're honest with yourself and you can, and again, not beat yourself up too much over it, then it's the best step forward. Yeah, and it'll allow you to take advantage of those things.
Yep, definitely.
I love your hairdo, boy.
Thank you. I did it just for you.
How long did it take this time?
This is a quick job.
That was a natural segue, by the way. No, so how long does it take? No, seriously, how long does it take to get you?
This is quicker than the time it takes to boil the kettle. I went out, put the kettle on, made a coffee for me and a tea for Raya. By the time the kettle had boiled, it was up.
Tell us about Raya, your artist, man. Let's just digress a little bit about what's going on with your world, what's happening. Tell us about Raya.
Yeah, Raya Boss. She's upstairs at the moment. We've just been recording today. But yeah, she's dropping another track on the 29th, I believe, August 29th. Which is, about 10 days away or so. But yeah, she's an amazing artist, probably one of the, hands down, the most talented artist.
Where'd you find her? How'd you meet her?
So there was another producer who was working out of here a few years ago, who was working with her. He was basically one of the fucking lowlifes of the industry that everyone seems to have come across and then have got rid of pretty quickly. So I got rid of him out of the studios and out of everything I was associated with. Ryan did the same. But then about 6 or 7 months after that, I ended up linking back up with Renika, who was another girl who was working out here and is friends with Raya. We caught up in the city and we're just talking about music, and she was like, she was still friends with Raya. She's like, we should come back down. I was like, sweet. And then we just started working together, just recording some songs, originally just Raya Fridays and kind of some covers. And then we just kind of hit it off and just worked really well together. So she, songwriting lyrically, she's
on fire.
One of the best I've ever seen. And when she gets in the zone, like we did a tribute to XXX when he died last year. And she came to the studio and she was like, Ben, fuck, for this Raya Fridays, we've got to do something for X. And I was like, cool. So we chucked a beat on, she started writing, and 15 minutes later, she's got this, comes out and she's like, that didn't feel like that one came from me. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that one did either.
It's amazing when that shit happens.
Oh, it's truly...
When artists find themselves in fucking flow,
yep,
where time and space stand still, and you're just this... Yep. You're channeling shit, you know?
It's like nothing I'd ever, no creative process I'd ever been a part of was the same as that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so she's had an interesting journey. So she had some videos go viral back about 4 years ago. Came from a lot of adversity in her upbringing. Basically, she put some videos on YouTube. They just blew, did 9 or 10 million. She got taken over to the States to record what would have been her debut EP. Ended up working with dipshit producer who's in jail at the time. He basically, had let her overstay her visa. He said that he had lengthened the visa, didn't do shit. Long story short, she ended up coming back here. She was detained in LAX for a bit, deported back here. The EP didn't come out. He wanted her to sign a fucking stupid deal. Luckily at 18, she was like, I'm not signing that. He cracked the shit. She was like, I'm going to blacklist you from the industry. The EP's not coming out. Your video's not coming out. All of this crap. So then that just put her kind of back in a negative headspace. So then I started working with her and we were just cleaning everything up. So we had to clean up all the YouTube channels that were monetizing her tracks, which was a lot of them, all the fake Facebook accounts, all the fake Instagram accounts. There was dating profiles about her. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
Like coming from a guy from my background, to see what the internet does to young women who have a little bit of, fame or success about them, it is unbelievable. So we had to go through, clear all that, trademark all their names, get everything going. And then now we're just in a really good place where we've just got a heap of tracks in the bank. We just split with our affiliations with Warner because, look, in this day and age, I don't think major labels don't really have the power that they used to, but we can get into that in another podcast. So now we've got our own label, completely independent, got a whole heap of tracks in the bank, a whole heap of videos that we're shooting, and we're just going to be unleashing them in the next 2 or 3 months.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, so there's some good things coming from that camp, that's for sure.
What a journey that's been.
Oh, we will get her on the podcast and one of them as well to talk through it, but yeah, amazing. And even just like as Warner said, that like she's the best lyricist in the Southern Hemisphere. When she's in the zone, just being in the room, you can feel it. Just the vibration level rises to that.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing her stuff. So you're doing all the producing, or?
Stu's producer the next single that's coming out. The engineer from here. We worked with a couple of guys up in Sydney, Thrill Boy and Jules, Drummer G's, and a Aboriginal producer up in Adelaide, I believe, Adelaide or Sydney. He does some dope beats. So basically some guys all over Australia. I think Hooligan Hefts. I think we could be doing a track with him soon, which is dope. But yeah, heaps of people all over the country.
Let me ask you a question. What is it that makes you go... We were talking about adversity before, and when we come across any challenges or things that make us go, fuck. What is it you think makes you go through the adversity better than most? What's your mindset around it? Like, what do you like when you're hit with something pretty major?
Yep.
How do you process it?
I think, to be honest, up until maybe 6 or 8 months ago, it probably wasn't in the healthiest of ways. I think I used to beat myself up more than any external person or situation could. So if something bad happened, or if something, so whatever happened in life, it was my internal, I would always give myself a lot harder time than anyone else could. So say if I'd let someone down on, say a video clip or something, theoretically, let's just say someone wanted me to do a film clip for them, do a clip, and whatever goes fucking pear-shaped, and this dude's ripping you a new one about what you should have done. There's nothing that person could have said that I wouldn't have already told myself. So I think, and again, it's not the most healthy of ways, but it was just the kind of mindset of just do it. Just fucking do it. Like, what else? Stop talking, and whatever you can, just do it. Get through it. Like, the idea of time's going to pass whether you do the action or you don't. No one's managed to find a way to make time stop yet. So in a month or whatever the deadline, would you want to have done that action, or do you want to sit and contemplate it? So, I guess turning the emotion sides off, I've always been kind of good at being emotionally disconnected from things. So just not being able to emotionally attach to something and just kind of look at it in a more analytical way rather than emotional way, really.
Well, it's good when you can do that, because that's the problem, mate. There's too much emotion and story around things. As things happen. So
I think I'm learning in balance. It's good to get through times, but there's plenty of external relationships which I haven't been able and can't maintain because of that. It's not an emotional attachment for me. I'll be like, cool, hanging out is fun, but I've got 12 hours at the studio that I'd rather do. It's not I'd rather do, but I know that's going to get me to where I want to be in 5 years.
Well, look, it's interesting. One of a very common theme I get to see amongst musicians, and that is just how hard it is for them to maintain, particularly when they're touring. And the girlfriends are, there's a lot of insecurity, a lot of codependency, a lot of emotional, the story around, what does this mean, and what's, and so many times I hear this quite often where they're trying to explain to each other how it's going to be. Like some of the girlfriends get caught up in the romanticism that their boyfriend's in the band, or what have you, or works in the entertainment business, and yet they may be told, listen, you have to understand this is kind of not a 9 to 5. It may be very selfish in many ways. Some people may say that's just really selfish, and I think there are some aspects of it that are. However, having said that, it's still not your 9 to 5 kind of thing. It's weird hours, it's weekends, it's nights, it's parties, it's all over. It's really hard to be able to take have a girlfriend, take her out, and spend a whole evening with her.
Yep.
Again, and people say, well, that's the matter of choice. Does he love the girl or not? But I'm just saying, you're putting things out there.
Yep.
And then they still may not hear, again, the story, what they think. And so they get disappointed really easily. And that can work for the fellas too.
Oh, definitely.
Who get attached to...
Gender neutral on that.
You know what I mean?
But I think, and I was actually having this chat with someone about 2 days ago. So it's funny, we'll get into it. But again, this is just coming from my experience. I think it's really interesting how some of the traits, behaviors, or job, or whatever it is that a male or female may be attracted to in someone, when it affects them personally, suddenly it's a different story. So, for example, let me explain. So, say I'm one of the girls. I'll use myself for example here. Okay, so some of the girls, there's girls who've been, say, in a relationship with me. They may be attracted to me initially because I don't do the regular 9 to 5. I work in the music industry. I don't pander to what most people would think are society norms. That's very much this person's a go-getter. He works hard. This is these traits. This is their idea of, oh, cool. This is someone who's not normal, unlike all the other guys. He's this. Suddenly, 4 weeks later, when they're like, hey, can we go? It's like, no, I'm working. Oh, Saturday, I'm recording. Sunday, I'm recording. Like my 7-day schedule is pretty watertight, but that attracts them at the start. But suddenly, a month in, they're like, oh, you haven't made time for it. It's like, you knew this going in. One of the reasons we had the conversation in the first place was because you thought it was good how my work ethic is, how, I put work suddenly, but when it comes to being ahead of you, you expect different. And I think that's really, interesting, and I see it a lot.
Yep. Well, you got to be committed to things. And I mean, there are people that can balance a relationship and works in the beginning of things. Again, sometimes there is necessity. I mean, I was married, so I really had no other choice but to try and didn't do very well at it, mind you. But regardless, it all just takes up so much of your time. And so if you're going to get in, it's like with anything, man. If you're going to do something, do it well. If you want to get in a relationship, do it well as you can. If you know from the outset that this is going to take priority, and I deep down don't think I can really give it what I'm feeling is expected, then you just don't go in. And look, for people that take it personally, Ben, unfortunately, it's on them. It's their insecurity. It's their stuff they got to do. And of course, no one wants to hurt anyone. But
correct.
But that is their thing. I think it's funny. People say, "I want honesty. I want you to be brutally honest." But quite often, when you give people the brutal, even though it's a subjective version of the truth, people fuck no. Well, no, I don't like it. I want to hear that.
Yep. Nah, definitely. And I think it's like, and a lot of people say, oh, that's selfish of you. Like, you're not putting in the time for this. Like, I look at the other, it's like, it's selfish going into a relationship if you know that you don't have the time for that two-way street that is, whether it's a platonic, a friendship, or a relationship or anything like that. If you know you don't have the time, the selfish thing is getting into the relationship, not staying out of it.
So
all good.
The selfish thing is also when people. The selfish thing also, mate, is when people come and fucking impose their point of view on you, and let you know how to live your life. That's fucking pretty selfish. You know what I mean?
Yep.
When people come up and question you why, and it's a condescending thing, or they're questioning you in a way that says, "I wouldn't do that." So you're a fuckwit, you're an idiot, or you're doing it wrong. It's like, come on, man. What's the I think there's a right. It's like there's a right one and a wrong way to sort of offer, and usually you ask if it's okay. Do you know what I mean? It's like
definitely.
No one come up and asked you for it.
Yep.
So if you think you got something to bring, and it's constructive, at least do the courtesy, right?
Correct. 100%.
Is it like? Would you be open to me sharing something with you, Ben?
Yep. And it might be,
and if you're not, you're not.
Correct. Right? And it might just be, hey, man, the last 5 minutes have just put me in a really weird emotional state. So not right now, but let me give you a call tomorrow, and then I totally am. Because it might just be that person's not in the right headspace for that feedback at the moment.
That's true, too.
But by just asking, it's like, fuck, dude, I really want to hear it, but I know I'm just not mentally ready for it now.
Well, I'm never going to push it on you, mate. Except I pushed this podcast on you.
Which was good.
No, I didn't really push it on, did I, mate?
Nah.
I just rang up and just said, fuck it, let's do it.
I was like, what are you doing Sunday, Tony? Let's hang out more.
Yeah, that's another good idea.
Yep.
For us as well. Have you made any of the shots there, Nilo? We've got Nilo, our camera guy, content guy. Well, one of them anyway. We've got cameras here, so we don't need camera guys.
He's got a Dallas Cowboys hat, but I haven't.
A camera guy.
I've left him alone.
Hey, you are, yeah. It's very camp. Well, I can't.
Some beautiful shots. I'm using a 70 to 200 Canon L series lens, and you've got lots of compression behind you.
Beautiful.
Oh, no,
love it.
Cool. So who you got coming through the studio at the moment, mate?
Who we got this week? Doing two singles this week, and got All We Need doing an album in about 10 days. Which is good, so they'll be in for a couple of weeks. And even on that, let's get into some of the business stuff. I think the starting of a business, I think there are some parallels, because obviously I just went through and started in the last 18 months. What year did you open Deluxe Mastering in?
Well, I actually opened the current facility in Brunswick on the 13th of April 2006.
Sweet. 12 years. So over the decade.
So, yep, 13 since I've been in that place. But then prior to that, I was working out at Sing Sing.
Yep.
Did nearly 6 years there. And then I worked out at home. Just started.
How long were you out of Sing Sing for?
From the turn of the millennium, mate, 2000, 2006.
Sweet. Actually, that's a good little. Let's digress from there. What are you moving from Sing Sing to your current facility? What's your views looking back on that? Good thing? Did it too early? Too late?
I wish
going
I'd
out on
done.
your own?
Nah, it's not. That's shit. I hate having my own studio, Ben. I fucking hate it. Yeah, don't do it, kids. Just don't. Oh no. It was well. I don't even want to say I wish I'd done it sooner because I wasn't ready to do it. Yeah,
Definitely.
it was definitely the best thing. In fact, before that, the best thing I did was when I was working at a home and I moved into Sing Sing. Right, that was a real big jump for me because it
Would
took
have been a huge jump, even just for the level of studios like Sing Sing of fucking
from
monsters.
from a backyard fucking fibro shack to there.
Yep.
You know, it was so fucking big and deep and scary because all the people I had prior to that, all the clients I had, couldn't afford to work with me over there because I had to cover a certain amount.
Yep.
And so in order for me to cover that amount, I needed to charge a certain amount, which because for them it kind of like went from like, you know, fucking really low budget into now all of a sudden I have to charge it, you know. So I lost everyone. So I started from scratch and, you know, being an unproven quantity in this city, in this country, mate, you know, you're trying to make a name and create opportunities for yourself. That was the biggest jump for me, going from, you know, from there to there. So, but also in terms of going from, the biggest jump a lot of people will ever make is working from home and actually going into a commercial facility or something like that, or at least creating the home environment professionally. At a very, you know, which is really, there's so much more of that going on now, and these days people have got, you know, just because it's set up at home, it doesn't mean it isn't fucking amazing and it isn't well equipped and the people aren't doing incredible work out of it. You know, quite often these days anyway, they don't even have to be, they just have to perform, you know, just the space, as far as an acoustic space.
I think even clients are a lot more open to the end product and letting the results talking for them.
Oh, for sure,
now.
Man. For sure. Look, there's always pros and cons to everything, okay? Like, if someone was going to come to a studio like mine, for example, they're going to come for different reasons, you know? And everyone values different things in whatever. Some people value turnaround time. Some people value they want to pay to be in the room and to listen and to it. Others want to come along because they also get, you know, the producers, the engineers, and they learn a bit. You know, they come in and they ask questions, and you can explain more things to them and whatnot. Even to the ones who want to master themselves, I'm completely fine with sharing the knowledge and telling them do it. You know, here's some things that work. Try this. You know.
Yep.
You know. So yeah, you know, I think for people to just make the decision to go, right, I'm doing it.
Yep.
I'm not going to play small, or, you know, I'm going to spread my wings. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to go out there and just. It's a very big hurdle in the mind to go from from. I don't want to say home as in home being amateur, but you know, the people who do work at home and they are on that bottom rung and they're building the way up, and then they get to that thing of like, okay, now it's getting too busy in here. I need more space.
Now there's real responsibilities.
You know, we're starting to attract these. I mean, this is what happened to Hooves, right? John Hooves, who works out of my studio, right? He's been there for a couple of months or so now, and same situation. I mean, he was working from home, building a business, was doing really, really well, and he now had to go from work from home, which was doing well, but it was starting to impact a little bit on the home life, just with people coming in and out, and with two little kids and the hours of working. You know, a lot of musicians sometimes want to work back late. Yep. You know, so with those kind of pressures, he had to make a decision what he was going to do. He's either going to scale back and do something different, or he's going to step up.
Keep rolling.
But I think once he actually did it, there was a lot of anxiety around for him in terms of, oh shit, can I afford it? And now I'm going to have to start paying overheads and, you know, not working from home, yada yada. But once you show how, in that situation, you also are able to lift up the quality and level of the clients you work with.
Definitely, hugely.
You know, who have a little bit more to spend.
Yep.
And I said, don't be surprised if your guys, who you currently have, will see what they're getting, and will be happy. I'm sure they'll be happy to. But what I said to him though is, and this is something I suggest if you go into transition from a smaller, more amateurish kind of setup into something into commercial and a little bit more spiffy. The people that have been dealing with you, if it is maybe a little bit out of there, I would just say do the next job for them at the same rate you charged them at the old place.
Yep.
I think that's really good.
Great tactic.
It's it doesn't shock people. You don't tell people, but you also say, happy to do this, we'll do it the same next time. And it's just a courtesy to them.
Definitely. And I think even coming back to one of the things you mentioned earlier of setting up and clear communication of expectations in all parties, I think stuff like that is great, and it's a great way to, just keep business going so that people aren't going, oh, he's out of my pay grade now, I can't afford him. Because you always want to keep up these good client relationships. The one thing I will say is make sure to let these clients know that this is a one-off. Let's not get them getting used to it. Because there's a saying, people don't get used to free, but they get used to discounts. So, for instance, if someone was to come in through here, and I'd worked them for ages or for whatever reason, and I go, sweet man, come through guys, tonight's rehearsal's on me. They're not going to come back expecting a free rehearsal every time. But if I'm coming through and I'm like, hey guys, cool man, I'll just do it for this much. They can start to get used to that, and then all of a sudden, not saying it'll happen all the time, but you can find situations where clients expect a discount and then almost feel like you're doing them a disservice if you charge them full rates. But again, just making it clear between the clients and yourself, the expectations of it. So if that's hey guys, I'm in this new facility, I really want you guys to come down. Look, I know it's a little bit more pricier than I'd said, but I'd really love to keep working with you guys. I think you guys are going to love this place. Come down, I'll do the next job for the same price, and then we can talk. And then we'll talk about the other actual prices, or just going a one-off free session. Come in and have a look at it. Because people get used to discounts, but they generally won't get used to free.
I don't. It's an interesting thing about pricing and discounts and all that kind of stuff. And what I've found lately is most people are really cool and really understand because they know how I work, and so I guess over time I've sort of got a nice little core group. Always room to work with more interesting artists as well. But I just find that after a while you start to operate in a way where you don't attract the idiots, and one of the best ways of doing that is to, I think, not to price yourself out of that market. Mm-hmm. Okay, and they're not idiots, but again, they're just people that you don't necessarily want to, want to land with.
Yep.
Okay, so one way of is doing that is the pricing structure, and also maybe looking at finding ways to fit into a certain community. Part of the scene. People say it's not that great to specialise, but I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. If you can be really good at something, you probably are going to be good at other things too. But there are certain for example, there might be certain studios that are set up as mainly metal. They do metal on the heavy side of things. I think it's great that they exist.
Yep.
I really do, and I think that people shouldn't be afraid of finding that specialty of theirs or that niche of theirs.
Yep.
If they got one, they really feel it's their strong suit, go out there and do it.
100%. And at the same breath, though, I think if you do have that niche or that target audience, you'll know it. Like, don't try to find a niche because you think, fuck, this is where the money is.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
if you can get niche out if you know it. If you're a metalhead through and through and all you've done is produce metal for the last years and it just so happens that all the equipment that you've moved into your studio is metal oriented, it's like, so you're not intentionally niching out. You're just going down, you're playing to your strengths. I think some people do go down and they want to find a niche target audience because they go, cool, where's the money at? Where am I going to go to find this money?
Yeah.
And the people who play that game, they're just going to go around in a circle that's going to eat up a lot of their time and energy. They're not going to get any money back. They're going to be super burnt out. They're going to be hated. Not hated. They're going to hate the industry and just be super jaded in 10 years. When I think when you go about it for enjoying the process, then you don't burn out. if I was doing the
Oh,
hours,
no, you can still. Oh well, I would argue respectfully, my friend, that you still can burn out because even though you're loving something and you're doing it. Have you ever heard of boiling frog syndrome?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I've heard of Boiling Frogs was, I think, a song by Alexis on Fire.
Oh.
That's all I've got on that.
Yeah. What were we talking about, mate?
Boiling Frog Syndrome.
Boiling frog syndrome. Okay.
What
so
is it?
if you take a pot of cold water, throw a frog in there,
Yep.
and then you just light the gas thing, right? As the water heats up gradually, well, most of us would probably get to a point where we're going, oh fuck, it's getting too hot. Well, a frog won't. A frog will just boil to death. So it's like that. Before the frog's in, it's all good.
Yep.
And over time, it's like with stress, like with build up, like with burnout, right? It just
Yeah,
builds,
okay.
but it builds so gradually that you're fucked when you're fucked.
Yep.
Yep. So these frogs are basically, that's the end.
Yep.
So yeah, it can burn out. It can burn out.
Oh, yeah. No, I'll agree. You definitely can. I think you'll be able to go a lot longer though if it's in a field that you're actually passionate about.
Yeah. I think it's one of the most common answers I give to people, mate. Is it depends, okay? And I think it also depends here. It depends on. This is something that another mentor of mine, Craig Harper, shared with me, and the rest of this group that I was involved with last year. And he talks about there's no such thing as work-life balance as much as there's work-life impact. So depending on how, for some people who might want to do 14, 15, 16-hour days, and if they're comfortable with it and it's not negatively impacting on other parts of their life, then that's where it's at. For other people, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So you'll never get a perfect balance. I think this is whole myth of trying to, get, it's like, putting beans in different,
6
cups.
hours, what is it? 8 hours,
8
6,
hours
8 hours. Yeah.
8 hours sleep, sleep, rest and play, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but who does that, really?
No.
I don't get 8 hours sleep every day. I don't get the play. You know what they mean by play?
Yeah.
So 8 hours a day, man, but I don't get 8 hours of what I would consider just
Leisure time. Yep, to unwind.
Now I could argue my work is my leisure to a point, but pure leisure, like just pure leisure, hanging out with your mates, being out with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your mates, spending quality time with people, and sometimes just doing fuck all.
Yep. Even on that, when you got into business for yourself, so leaving Sing Sing, looking.
Actually, can I tell you a story about that?
Certainly.
Yeah, I never left Sing Sing. They asked me to leave.
Really?
Yeah.
Look how that panned out for them.
Huh?
Look how that panned out.
Yeah, no. But look how it panned out for me.
Yeah.
No, actually, I've had a few regrets, Ben. But I think the way that all ended, and again, like I told you, man, you're going to hear the shit I've done wrong, and
don't worry, vice versa,
I'm being really
man.
honest here. But I've always had a great debt to Kai Jude and Phil Butson, who was their previous partner, because the moment I set foot in that joint, just purely from perception, you're seen as something. You at the very least get an opportunity to be heard. Does that make sense?
Yep.
As opposed to who the fuck are you walking around the corner
100%.
out of the pub?
Yep.
Right? So it still was a hard pitch, but you were being in the building, you got to meet the people and say hello. At least you got to do that, So there was all this other stuff that was going on there. Anyway, but I owe them a great debt, and there was another engineer that worked in there. And the long and short of it is basically that there was another engineer. It was hard for me to build my business within another business in the same room and whatnot. It wasn't like I was running a separate business within the building.
Yep.
This is two engineers who are trying to.
Yeah.
Share a room using completely independent chains, different monitoring.
Right.
It always took a little bit of a setup when we did swaps.
Did you guys have assistants back then, or you?
No. No. So anyway, me and this other engineer just weren't clicking, and I allowed my anger to build over this dude because my emotional maturity was not great at the time, and I was just so full of piss and vinegar and ego and brimstone and all that shit. that it got to a point where just before I was actually leaving them to move into my studio. So this is what makes it really. You see, here's the thing, right? When I told Sing Sing in October that year, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. They were supportive. They were tremendous. They were great. So, and I knew I wasn't probably going to be up and running until maybe April or whatever, May of next year. Right? So, I played my cards right. I just could have just cruised through and just had a very seamless, but no, it didn't happen that way. I was asked to leave. This is after I had an incident with one of the engineers, okay? Basically, it just came down to that. And I was out of line. It was fucking wrong. And no matter how justified or unfairly treated I felt, that was just crossing the line and it was just fucking wrong, period, right? And despite that, Kai and Jude had enough grace within themselves and compassion for me to say, you got 2 weeks to get out. You know what I mean? Like, so I owe them a lot, but I think the way I exited it was regrettable. Could have made better. Again, hindsight's 20/20, right?
Yep.
I got a fucking PhD in it. I would have done it. So, that lesson of just, bite your tongue, be patient, and don't get physical or aggressive. Towards others. There's just no excuse. No matter how fucking justified you feel, it's not life and death.
Yep.
No,
definitely.
So yeah, man. So that was my little sing.
No, and then so coming out of that, say when you just opened up for yourself or about to open up Deluxe, knowing what you know now about how to go and get clients and building of a business and how much extra work goes into it. Would you have still done it?
Oh, 10 times over. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have any regrets at all. I've had moments where I felt, no, I've got no regrets about it, man. No. The only regret you'd ever have is not trying.
Yep.
But no, definitely not. Yeah, man. But the other thing too that I'm learning, and again, I'm a late bloomer in all this, mate, is when things don't quite go right, the challenges that come up, while they're not fun and we don't want to necessarily, have a lot of grief in our day, it's those moments and those things where you really learn a lot about yourself and the business and people and that's where you finally get to sort of, you develop more of a, you start to learn to get more of a relationship with the intuition. Mm-hmm. So,
it's a big one.
Huh?
That's a big one.
Oh, it's huge, man. It's huge. It's, again, we all know about gut feel and intuitiveness, and there seems to be this misconception that it's just mainly a female thing, but it's an everyone thing. Everyone's, women, just because they're much more in tune within their heart space, usually they're more connected to themselves. So that's why that intuition it's not, exclusively their thing.
Yep.
They just know how to fucking tap into it.
Yep. And occasionally, or majority of the time, listen to it better than a lot of males.
Well, it's funny because it's not even. We all know that when we know we're right, it's a feeling, right? It's not a voice. Mm-hmm. So the minute we start hearing something, the internal voices and the dialogue, straight away we know.
Yep.
But your mind is so good at being able to trick you and give you the greatest explanations at everything. Cross references.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's watertight. Yeah.
It is. It certainly is. It's also funny how easily it can be tricked as well.
Yeah.
One of the things, there's a few kind of little, mental kind of hacks just to get through kind of tough times. One I heard that's good that I've tried, not consistently, but when I remember to, I do, and it's really good. If you, when you're coming into, say, a time of not necessarily conflict, but challenges, when something's not going your way, when you're just like, fuck, this should have gone this way. I had this plan. Why isn't it panning out this way? It's kind of stopping, just going, what am I about to learn? Just asking yourself the internal question, what am I about to learn? And it just shifts your whole mental. You're going, oh, all right, now I'm going to learn something, and this is going to allow me to get it through the next time more seamlessly than I did this time because something hasn't gone right. But rather than letting that emotion of anger, distraught, whatever it is, because this plan hasn't gone right, whether it's waiting for that emotion to come up and then acting on that through anger or whatever it is, just taking that step back, go, what am I about to learn? Because you are going to learn something. Because the way I kind of look at things is the person I want to be in 2, 3, 5, 10 years if I could already be them, I would be them now. There's challenges and journeys and conflict that I need to go through and resolve to get to that person that you're going to be in 5 years. Otherwise, I'd be there now. Like, I haven't learned the things yet. This is the journey that we're on. And a lot of people in their head, they're like, oh, I should be this artist. I should be, you know, at this stage of my, I've done all this. Like, well, you haven't learned you couldn't have learned all the steps to get there. Otherwise, you'd be there. Like,
and then even if you were, like, what would be the fun of that? You know, if things just happen that fucking quickly and that magically for you, it'd be boring.
Yep.
You know, it's like, it'd be boring. You know, I know people. I sometimes get caught up in. Things would go a bit faster, a bit quicker, but I'm getting better now. Just kind of being able to let go of outcomes and just go, right.
Yep.
It'll be okay. It'll happen when it's meant to happen, and mean it, like, and really mean it.
Yep.
And so by just letting go more and more, but I still got a way to go, buddy. But up until now, with the things that I've been able to just got to go. It's worked. Things have worked definitely better. Less stress.
Yeah.
Less resist. Because again, less resistance creates less stress.
Yep.
So again, fine line also between being chilled and okay with things, but not being so laid back that you're lazy. You're doing nothing about it.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yep. And I think it's you know, the guys who I look at who, in my opinion, do it well are the guys who just seem to have such an effortless grip on what's in their control and what's not. Like, the stuff that's not in control, it's almost like it does not even come into their radar.
Yeah.
Like, it might pan out perfectly for them, it might not.
Yeah.
But you can just watch kind of their internal gears turning. You're like, this guy's just not even thought about that. Like, all this stuff is happening, but you can just tell them, like, him or her, they're focused on what they can control.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like, being around people like that. Like, obviously that's why we have people get mentors in your life. You know, when you can hang around people who take control of their life, well, it makes you want to do the same. You know, it's kind of, you're always going to rise to the level of the people you're around, you know, for more or less. But yeah, that's letting stuff that's not in your control stress you, I think, is something that, you know, I'm always trying to look out for. And I know a lot of people, a lot of artists, especially in creative industries, they just let stuff that's not in their control really get them down. It's like, man, that you couldn't have done anything about that. Like, your actions up to this point could not have affected this outcome that you're stressing about, that you're really having a hard time. It's putting a lot of stress on you and all these other relationships. Your actions had nothing to dictate that. Why is this? Why is that? Why are you letting that in? And it's, you know, it's human. We go through it to learn that, fuck, I shouldn't do that next time.
But some people don't learn the next time. Or the next time. Or the next time.
Well, it's true.
They don't. I'm one of them, mate. No,
I wouldn't say
used
that.
to be. Oh, no, dude. I was a slow learner.
But you got there.
Well, I'm not there.
Well, but you're on the journey.
I'm on a journey. Look,
I'd argue being on the journey is being there.
I feel grateful that at least later in life I've started to, you know, have these moments and these awarenesses and stuff. Better to have it late than never. I know it's cliche as it is. So,
and that's it.
Because a lot of people may go through life but that's their journey. They'll never get to see more, experience more, do more, anything. It's just going to be a very narrow bandwidth. But hey, maybe that's something that they want to experience. And who am I to bloody say
exactly
you're
right.
wrong, mate? You know, if that's what you want to do,
then that's
if it's
completely
9 to 5
fine.
and Tracy Grimshaw,
Hey, then go out and do it. Even one of the things on that, I was talking about this with Rye before. Just getting into some kind of mindset stuff. What are some stuff you've done to keep yourself, I guess, mentally healthy and in a good place? Because, I mean, we obviously all know the music industry's got its ups and downs.
I'm still mentally fucked. So no. Well, look, this is a big question. This is probably one for this is our entire podcast. But we'll just touch into a bit and we'll wind it up. But we'll just kind of.
I just want to before you get into that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I was bringing it up was some stats that I heard, where basically the life expectancy of you working in the music industry is about 48, and the stats show your majority of people die either by drug overdose or suicide. So, you know, the people sitting in this room right now, it's basically saying, if you're in the music industry, you're not going to see 50, and you're either going to OD or kill yourself. And I think, just by us, and again, this is one of the reasons why we started this podcast. I think just by having this conversation and starting the conversation, hopefully those numbers can change.
Yeah.
But there's some fucking big stats.
No, it's pretty full on. It's pretty full on, dude. And yeah, the more it's spoken about, the more exposure that's given to it, the more importantly, the more hope people can be given, again, by others who have been through the journey, still on the journey. I mean, I think sometimes people think, you can't speak about or can't be helpful to anyone who is experiencing mental health unless you are fucking absolutely perfectly okay. No one's ever perfectly 100% okay all the time. You hope to be healthy and consistently okay, but in terms of, well, it's like with anything. Oh, I won't do this until this happens, or until that happens, or until these certain conditions come, and they never fucking come. Never come. But look, let me try and best answer. I think for me, what is helpful apart from the fact of not abusing drugs, about getting all your bullshit looked at, and to understand what it is the way you are, is rather than to give yourself shit about it. It's just the more you can understand, accept who you are, what you are, and that it's not an uncommon kind of thing. Friendships, relationships, just to have good mates around you. Again, that peer group, people that you can support, that are there, they're reliable. You know what I mean? They'll be supportive of you. Taking care of your body, your mind, physical health. Look, again, I'm not a doctor, but I've read in quite a few different places studies of saying 70% of people who have mental health it's just a matter of the diet being cleaned up, the stress levels being maintained, drinking water, getting sunshine. It's all that health stuff. 70% of people that started to incorporate that and get that working better in their life didn't need antidepressants and all that kind of stuff. So so I'm not going to sit here and say get off all the pharmaceuticals, kids, now, because I'm not a doctor, because I don't know what everyone's situation is. But
definitely, I think starting, and again, for anyone who's in a mixed engineer or in the industry, it's kind of like when you start working on a mix, you don't make all these huge changes and it sounds fucking magic. You're doing little 1% incremental turns to get it there. So I think, definitely starting off because there's so many just instinctual things that we know we should be doing, but we don't, whether it's eating healthy or, fucking not drinking every fucking day or, not abusing drugs. Cool, let's get some exercise into our daily schedule. All right, let's actually have a daily schedule so we're not just doing shit willy-nilly. Like all those little 1%ers, I'm just seeing even the last 18 months when I've started to incorporate them, you feel better. You have more energy. You value your time more. The time you spend doing things, you can do it better.
And starting it again, how you start your day and how you end your day.
Starting the day is a great one.
End your day. Listen, mate. So this is such a big topic.
Yeah.
And when this could be for another podcast.
We'll dive deep into it.
And you could have a long, several things about it. But for me, what keeps me in a good place is just like I said, good friendships, connections, your peers, and your general health, holistically, your health. So when you look after those things, you don't have to be a complete fucking, like a yogi or like an elite athlete, but just to have that as a consistent practice, you're more than halfway there.
Yep.
Yeah. So listen, we want people to get involved with the podcast and send
interactive
us and ask us questions about anything particular. So whether you started a business, or you're about to start a business, or things about networking and marketing, and just if you want to transition to step up, just look, anything that is of concern to how you're running things, and whether it's a studio or a professional musician or anyone who's trying to make a fist of it or making a fist of it.
Definitely, because even just going back off that, 2019, the age that we're in now, with social media, with the internet, with all these things at scale, it has never been easier. Or sorry, not easier. It has never been a better time for people to go out there and take the plunge and try working for themselves in any career.
Without doubt.
Photography, filmmaking, music, art, if you've got a passion and you're kind of good at it, you've got the ability and the tools now through the internet to really give it a shot. Because it was a lot harder 20, 30 years ago.
Well, and I started my studio money back in the day. It was like the equivalent of like 50, 60,000 today's money. And now I could have 20 times the studio I had then for, you know, a couple of grand, maybe $3,000-4,000.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. Anyway, so where can I get in touch with us if they want to send us any questions?
Yeah,
mate?
so Facebook page, the No Guts, No Glory podcast.
He's going to put it under here somewhere.
On
right?
Facebook.
Yeah.
There is Instagram, No Guts, No Glory podcast on Instagram. You can also send us
fucking under here somewhere, wherever it fits, yeah.
Can also send us a email at No Guts, No Glory podcast at gmail.com. Yeah. Once again, where Tones is pointing. There'll be some stuff.
Well, within reason. Sorry, I don't know who's doing the post on this, but sorry if I didn't make it easy for you.
No, all good. Anything else before we go?
All right, mate. So we're out of here?
Yeah, I think that's it. Episode 1.
Episode 1. Done,
No Guts, No Glories.
Here's to more. No guts, no glory indeed, my friend. Thank you so much, mate.
Cheers, Tones.
And we'll see you next week, yeah?
Done.
All right. Ciao, everyone.